Hello, welcome to Council Matters. This is the television show that looks at the issues that face the town of Oakville, and we do that through a panel of residents of Oakville, followed by a panel of members of the Council of Oakville. And taken together, we look at how council can make a difference in whatever the issue is. Today, the issue is protecting our employment lands so that we can always be creating jobs for our residents. And joining us today are David Luciani from Min-Chem and Francesco Policaro from the Porsche Centre and Ted Lee from Javelin Technologies. Ted, what led you to make how did your company start? How did you start your company? Let's start there.
Well, actually, so it literally was one of these basement startups. Myself and my business partner started it in our basements. I cleared a deep freeze out of a room, turned it into an office, and we founded the company back in 1997. And so we did end up in Oakville as our first office space, just over Dorval and the QEW, and attracted to the area because A, we were certainly nearby and it was near our residences, and secondly, access to highways and our customer base, and really thirdly, that we really enjoyed the environment, the whole town of Oakville, what it had to offer, and the employment base that was here.
So the employment-based part is an interesting angle. The town attracts a certain kind of people that you need to attract, and so there's an equation there that's working for you, I think.
Yeah, that's very true. Early on, we actually had the case of people who were tired of going into Toronto and commuting into the large corporate large corporate companies, and so when we would place ads, we would actually get people who were attracted to us because they were able to kind of gain back some of their personal life and be home in time to take kids to soccer, sort of thing. And so we were able to attract some good talent early on. Is one of the initial things that was very interesting about locating here. Now, as we've relocated and grown our business, we're in the new business park here on Burl Oak, and what we're finding is that we have access to the students and graduates from the surrounding universities and colleges, and also the folks that are here tend to be educated and experienced in the areas. We're in the high-tech field, so we have a lot of access to the engineers and technicians and technologists that we need.
Yeah. David, your business's story, you're in a different line of work. Tell us about yours.
Well, our business dates back to the early 40s, and it was originally from Quebec. And it was a father and son team, and the son moved to Ontario to start a business. So we had two offices until the early 70s. And after acquiring numerous businesses, each time we evaluated that operation and decided that we'd move head office back to Oakville. So through several acquisitions, 4 or 5 in fact, they all came to Oakville. And we were able to grow our business very nicely and really have wonderful success.
Now, is it our location? What's the key thing? Can you put your finger on a key thing? Access
to good talent, for sure, is very important to us. Safety and security is important to us, and protecting our assets, protecting the value of the property that we own in Oakville.
Yeah. Now, explain what your company does.
Well, we're a chemical distribution and manufacturing business, so we import chemicals from around the world. We, in some cases, would repackage those chemicals into more user-friendly sizes and distribute those chemicals across Canada. We have other locations in Canada, but they're represented through for distribution and logistics purposes.
So you have a very good story of growth. Francesco, your business, the Porsche Centre, on the one hand, it's bringing a business here, and on the other hand, you must be attracted by the success of the people who live here and work here to offer them cars too.
Absolutely. This is I mean, we're obviously a dealer group and a family that represents the Porsche brand. So so there's I guess there's two companies that were attracted to Oakville, Porsche AG and Porsche Cars Canada, as well as the Policaro Automotive family. I mean, for Porsche, I think it was very important. You know, Oakville was kind of the epicenter of the Golden Horseshoe. QEW exposure was extremely important, and obviously a high, you know, median income of the residents of Oakville. You know, a lot of professionals and high-income households, which obviously our product lends itself to. So I think those are the reasons why Porsche was attracted to Oakville, and some of those same reasons are the reasons why, you know, we were excited about the opportunity at representing the brand here. And for us, I mean, we made a significant investment as a family in Oakville, you know, buying the property and building the building, because that onus falls upon us, not the manufacturer. And you know, we took a giant leap of faith, and we have you know, full confidence that we made the right decision by, you know, by investing more than even what Porsche had asked of us, and we did that for the long term, because we think and we know we're going to be here for a long time.
So you're representing one of the world's biggest brands. To a degree, would you feel that Oakville itself is a brand or has a brand, and that this fits together for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Absolutely. I mean, so much so that, I mean, this is probably regarded as one of the best places for Porsche in Canada, and so far, I mean, our results have been, in the short time that we've been open, only since October of 2013, the results have been you know, far beyond expectation. Oakville definitely has a brand. I mean, as an outsider looking in, I'm now an Oakville resident, and that's happened over the last year. But as an outsider looking in, Oakville was always a place where you know, I almost wanted to have a reason to move out this way. So having our business here, you know, afforded me that opportunity, and our family absolutely loves to be here, and for a lot of the same reasons that we've been discussing.
You know, I didn't realize that you'd moved here. My favorite theme about economic development has always been that if we make ourselves the cleanest, greenest, most livable place on the planet, that people who have companies will want to come and live here because of the clear advantages for raising their families. And then they'll bring their businesses. And that's been a model that's repeated itself over and over. You're an even more interesting case. The business came and then you came. Yeah. I love the twist on that.
And you know, I guess the only negative is that my commute with these awesome cars is too short. but that's something that I'll live with to be in Oakville. There's great roads to take our vehicles out on Sundays. So that's what I tend to do.
So the executive demos will be less heavily used at your shop.
Right, they will be. Good opportunities.
So we have a goal, if you will, a job creation budget, a job creation target of about 1,000 jobs a year, and that fits our growth. Growth in Ontario is regulated by the province, and we all have certain numbers to hit. We're very fortunate. 1,000's a pretty high number relative to some of our neighbors, and we seem to be hitting that. Do you have any advice about how to keep hitting that number? What can we do to make Oakville more attractive to other businesses? Either way, getting the owners of other businesses to move here, or getting the businesses to move here first. How about you, David?
That's a good question, and we are in the position shortly to look at hiring some more people. And we believe the way to attract those people is to offer good jobs. You know, not just pay minimum wage, pay a premium to get good people. And our challenge is we want employees to stay and make a career of working for our businesses. And I think local government, and in particular town of Oakville, has to continue encouraging growth and continue to support businesses like ourselves, and be aware of the business that we run, and try and encourage and help us through it, whatever means, to assist us through some of the challenges that we have, which could involve processes such as business acquisitions or growth, development, new warehouses, access to people within government, municipal government, that allows us to help us through the process.
Okay. What about you, Ted?
Yeah, it is an interesting question, and I think one of the things that I think about is that there is this drive to kind of back to traditional, jobs. When people think about job creation, it's like, oh, let's get back on track. Maybe even phrases like, oh, I can't wait till it goes back to the way it was. And I think to move forward on a lot of these things, we need to think about not going back to normal. I think what we have now is the normal, and I know a lot of people don't want to sort of talk about that or think about that. But I think if we embrace new businesses, and I know with Hall Tech and Mars and things that are going on at Sheridan College, we are doing that in this area, and I think that's really important. So I think it's a combination to get those job counts, to grow the existing businesses that are thriving and moving forward, but also identifying and encouraging the new businesses, and I don't even know what those are. I mean, some of the business models that are being created today are not even thought of 2 or 3 years ago. So I think it's being open and encouraging of some of these new and different businesses that I think are the types that Oakville would like to attract also in terms of the cleanliness. Again, I'm talking a lot about tech type businesses and so on. Maybe some of these new manufacturing centers that are very automated or specialized and things like that. So for me, it would be a combination of supporting the existing, but not trying to invest too heavily to kind of bring that back, but to look more on the forward side of things of what's coming and what the new businesses might look like.
We're trying to attract a video game maker, and this has my son very excited. He's studying how to write video, how to be a coder for video games, and up until it began to look like we could have such a company move here, I was sort of skeptical of my son's idea. I was accusing him of just wanting to play video games for a living.
So interestingly enough, one of the companies that I've spun off from Javelin is a company called Cinema Suite, and we make game development tools. And those actually came from the work that we did in our engineering space with our 3D software that's used for design and engineering. And what happened was the tools kind of merged together, and you started to want to walk around a new building that was being constructed in basically like a game environment. And the tools we developed to do that became a new spin-off business. So that company that wants to locate here might use our tools for, it's centered around motion capture, so that's what, that is happening. So we're shifting.
That's one of the things I know we can do to help make business grow.
But yeah, so those are the kinds of new businesses that are happening here.
And do you echo David's remark about pay levels?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know that Oakville pays a premium more so than Toronto or this area generally, but we would definitely, in our business, we would pay for good people. I think that's the key in, everybody talks about the knowledge businesses. It's really the key when you don't own machinery and buildings and a big inventory warehouse and so on that a traditional business looks like. What your key asset is your people and the things that they're creating. So that's a big factor.
I guess, Francesco, surely the better someone sells, the better they're going to do. I'm sure that they've got a high. There's probably no top on them. In the film and TV business where I spent my life, you couldn't make a good show if you didn't have talent, and I never met a talented person who didn't know they were talented, and so it was just an established fact that you paid talent. You paid them well in order to keep them.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting to hear, I'll call it real business as opposed, you guys are in real business as opposed to television, which is kind of a fantasy in a way. But it's interesting to hear that you say the same. I want to thank you guys for joining us today, and I want to ask our audience to join us in just a second when we're back with 3 members of our council, and we'll talk about how we're working to create jobs in Oakville. Hi, and welcome back to Council Matters. This is the show where we examine issues that face the town and how the residents feel about those and how council can help with those. Today we're looking at how we create jobs in Oakville. We have a target of about 1,000 a year to sustain us through the future. And as we heard from our panel, we seem to be doing pretty well on that. Our theory behind it is that if we look after making the town as attractive a place as possible to live, businesses will follow and jobs will come with them. Joined today by Councillor Alan Johnston, who represents the southwest part of Oakville, which we call Ward 1, Bronte, and Councillor Pam Damoff, who represents the south central part of Oakville, Ward 2, and Councillor Max Khan, who represents the northeast part of Oakville, Ward 6. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
I know that we've been on this path for 8 years of how we go about doing economic development. And you heard our panelists giving some evidence that it's working, at least for them. They're not the only people you as councillors would talk to, and certainly in your reading and other work, you would have an opportunity to be constantly thinking about whether we're on the right path or how we can adjust it. Do you have any response to what you heard, or do you have any ideas about how we should change our path? Are we on the right path or the wrong path, or a path that needs to be tweaked? Alan?
I think we're in the right path. What we've done in council is protect employment land. From previous years ago, employment land was changed into residential at the developer's request. We've stood firm. Employment land is important to build a community, because the panelists are right. If you like where you live, you're going to want to work close to home. Nobody wants to commute unless they have to.
Yeah, so the argument when employment land was being converted to residential was that it would never be needed for employment, and the owners of the land wanted to make money with it. So it has been a bit of a test of wills over the years for us to keep the line firm on that. Pam, how about you? What do you think about the path we're on?
Well, I'm newer to council than my colleagues here, but I mean, I think we're doing well, and I'm particularly pleased that our Economic Development Office is encouraging new employment here, new employers here, and also supporting our existing employers so that we have a good employment base within the community. The meeting that they held, I guess it was a couple of years ago, that brought in new and old employers here to have a conversation was, I was really pleased to see that happening.
Okay. Max, you've had a direct personal hand in bringing some pretty big name employer here. Tell us how that happened.
Well, actually, that's one of the accomplishments that I say we can all be proud of. I had, through my personal relationships with with Siemens and head of Siemens, we were able to recruit their head office to Oakville, into our ward particularly, which resulted in 900 jobs being moved to Oakville. So that was quite the accomplishment. But I think we can take a lot of credit for it, but I think it really is, at the end of the day, a joint venture. The town is doing a great job. We've also had participation from the province. The trains running every half hour has made Oakville a lot more accessible. The talent that we're getting from Sheridan College, which will one day soon be a university, that's bringing a lot of employment to Oakville as well. So I think we're definitely headed on the right track.
Okay. Now, what can we do? Should we do anything more, or should we? I mean, is it perfect, or can we tweak it?
Well, I think that, I mean, as you started off, our goal has been to bring 1,000 jobs to Oakville every year, and we've been hitting that target for the past 2 years, in fact. But I think that we can always improve. We're going to be going out and marketing and making sure that employers out there are familiar with the quality of life that we have in Oakville. Improving the quality of life Oakville actually draws out more employment to our area. So I think that we're on the right track for that, but recruitment's always going to be something that we need to work on.
So, Alan, you know that for several years now I've been sort of preaching a message to business that we should, I call it, get out more and explore foreign markets and develop more exports. And a lot of Oakville companies have done that and are very strong exporters. That was why for example, my China initiative. Is that something that you would continue to support?
Oh, definitely, and I think the Chamber again is continuing on that path with this year with a business trip to China. But I think we need to expand not just into Asia, but look at Europe too. Europe's an established market with good economies and I would say good profit margins.
How about you, Pam? Do you think our businesses think it's a sound path to get people to get out more, so to speak, to export more and develop and also bring businesses back here from abroad?
Yeah, I mean, I think we as a town can encourage that to a certain extent, and I think we're doing a good job doing that, depending on the business. I mean, some businesses, that's not going to be a business model that works for them. But, you know, between, as Alan said, the Oakville Chamber and the town and businesses themselves providing models and mentoring other businesses, I think it's a good path for many of them to follow.
Max, what could the higher levels of government do to help Oakville businesses expand internationally? I imagine that's mostly a federal area, but you're a lawyer. You're knowledgeable in this area. You brought us a very big accomplishment in Siemens. What's your thoughts about what we need from the higher levels of government?
I think one of the things that the federal government, and to a certain extent even the provincial governments, but mostly because it's federal jurisdiction, dealing with trade barriers. I think that more relaxed trade barriers will allow more investments to come into Canada, and particularly into Oakville. The other thing that I think, just leaving that aside for a second, our staff also has to be complimented at the town of Oakville. It's very impressive what they're doing right now. When there is an application being made to the town, they're hands-on and they actually facilitate that project from beginning to end. And so there's always a lead person working on a particular file, which makes recruitment and relocation to Oakville a lot more easier to deal with and convenient for those employers that want to move here.
That's, I guess, that started out as the idea of a one-window approach, and then we turned it into a one-person approach, just so that you didn't get a different person behind the window each time. Now, in June, as the chair of the Ontario Auto Mayors Caucus, I'm holding a national summit on the future of auto manufacturing in Canada, and I know that support for the auto industry has been somewhat controversial. The contest seems to be between cutting taxes across the board and hoping that some businesses will hire more people versus targeted loans or investments that the government actually gets back. In the case of the Ford plant, earlier this year, $140 million of public money was involved in an almost $1 billion retooling of that plant. And the part that I can't forget about that is the alternative was that we would lose that plant, and that's our biggest employer. So it's a bit of a loaded question, but how do you come down on this question of broad-based tax cuts in the hope of creating jobs versus targeted investments where real jobs are being protected and enhanced? Because at the Ford plant, there'll actually be an increase in employment.
Well, I support the program of supporting not just Ford but any auto manufacturer, because it's not just cars that are made. There's a lot of businesses that depend on the auto industry as well. So I mean, it'd be a cascading effect if Ford left town.
Pam, did you find it at all confusing the way, I mean, Jim Flaherty was a great champion of targeted assistance to save the auto industry in the recession, and to see some of his former colleagues, fighting that and condemning it, and who knows what kind of damage to Chrysler's come about. Were you at all perplexed by the contradiction there?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to see what's happening with Ford of Canada. They're such a huge asset to the community, and you want to encourage encourage them to stay in Oakville, and they've invested a lot of their own money. It's not just government money going into Ford. And one of the things that people often forget about a company like Ford is the investment they make in the community as well. They're one of the biggest supporters of the United Way in Oakville. And so if you were to lose an employer like that, you don't just lose the jobs and the economic spin-offs, but you lose benefits to the community that are very broad-based. So I'm a big supporter of what's been happening at Ford.
Good. That's good to know. Max, the Ford manufacturing plant has spin-off benefits to the entire Southern Ontario area, of course. And you work in Toronto as well as live here. So what's your impression of the appreciation of the role of advanced manufacturing like Ford in Oakville?
You know, I have a bit of a conflict of interest on that. My father worked at Ford for almost 40 years. I worked at Ford for my summer jobs. My brothers worked at Ford. So we have a certain alliance with Ford. But I can tell you, even if I was to be objective as possible, Ford is the biggest employer that we have in Oakville. And I think it's very important for us as a municipality and to encourage the province and the federal government to facilitate those type of projects so that we can keep those jobs here. The spin-offs are incredible because, as Alan mentioned, it is not just about making a particular car, or vehicle, or a truck. There are extravagant spin-off benefits that we can obtain from that. So I think we as a council need to do whatever we can to protect that investment here.
I agree, and I thank you very much for putting it so well. And thanks for being with us here today. You know, we call the show Council Matters because the Municipal Act says that all municipal power is exercised only by council and only by resolution. And that means that we actually don't have any power at all except when we're working together. And I hope in our conversation today you've been able to see how we do that, and as well you've gained an appreciation of just how much council matters.